Hello everyone, this is General Hand Grenade. Welcome to my war room in Prince George, British Columbia. In today's video, we are going to wrap up Operation Hindenburg. So I hope you joined us, even if you only joined part of it. But it was pretty cool watching the game from start to finish with players that I hadn't played with before. Like I've played the whole game before, but just in play testing, and you kind of, that's no good. And so you reverse it and you go back and you do something else, and it's not the same thing. We were actually competing in this game, and it was a lot of fun. Everybody that was playing was really engaged in it, and we all made some mistakes. Even me and Bob, the people that developed the game and wrote it, right? Like you're still going to make a couple of mistakes, and of course we had some players playing for the first time, and they made a couple of mistakes, but that's no big deal. Like we're all just learning the game, and if you were watching along, then you probably learned something too. So in this video, we're going to count up the points. I was going to, if you remember my last video, which was a while ago now, I was going to count up the points then, but then as I started, and I even had the video rolling, I realized, I can't count them up now. I have to wait to see if the Soviets are going to get this point or if the Central Powers, and you'll see what I mean when we get into it. Anyway, so let's just take a look here. We've got everybody gonna use the handy dandy marker and do that. And if you haven't checked it out yet, you probably have if you like this game, but there it is, the reference sheets, and the rule book is out. I don't have the rule book out here, but the reference sheets are all done, and this is the first official version of the game. Before we were kind of beta testing it, right? Like after the play testing it, then we put it out to the community and sold the maps and everything, the player aids, and then got your feedback from the community, which was invaluable. We made a number of changes, mostly clarifications, but also some rule changes, because when you're play testing, like there's just a limited number of people, right? And you're not going to think of everything. And so anyway, let's start counting up the points, and then after that I'll do a little bit of analysis. So starting with, we'll do it in alphabetical order. So let's go with Austria-Hungary. End the game with all starting territories, 1 point. Let's just take a look at that. So yeah, you can see there that they don't own all their territories. I might as well just leave this thing here, and I'll go back to read it. It's kind of a cool thing about having a lav mic that you can walk around with. You're not walking away and your voice trailing off, right? Anyway, so rattling the empire is a no. Expand the empire. Score 1 victory objective for each of the following, but it possesses or controls at the end of the game. Romania, you can see Romania in yellow there, that's a no. Thessaly and Macedonia, they're in Greece, that's a no. Northern Italy, no. Western Ukraine, no. And that was one that they had recently lost, and this is an example of why I couldn't count the points up, because it's you don't have to have a unit there. What you have to do is control it, and this was under Austro-Hungarian control, but they lost that territory, or they lost control of it. They're Ukrainian allies, and so they're not in control, so those are no points. And then Victory City, Vienna, 1 point. So they do get that 1 point. Now, when you're counting up points, what did I do with my pen? When you're counting up points, you also subtract the number of home country territories. So like this would be -1, -2, -3, but that only counts for the victory objectives. The victory cities, you do not minus those. Those points all get awarded. So they will get 1 point. And there we go. On to the British Empire. Okay, now this we're going to have to move it all around the board, aren't we? Destruction of the German Navy. Score 1 victory objective if at the end of the game Germany has no remaining dreadnoughts and no more than 3 surface warships on the map, and that is worth 1 point. And I can tell you they got that point because the only boats that the Germans have left is 4 subs right there in the sea zone that is adjacent to Western Germany. That's the only boats they have, so they have no surface warships and no dreadnoughts. So that is 1 point for Britain. One. There we go. And Mediterranean dominance. Score 1 victory objective if at the end of the game Great Britain has Constantinople or more dreadnoughts than any other nation in the Mediterranean. Now this was a mistake that we made because it would not have been difficult to put a dreadnought into the Mediterranean. There are no other dreadnoughts, so all they had to do was put one in, and we that's why you got to pay attention to those victory objectives when the game's winding down to make sure that you get what you need in there. So that is not a point. Up next, Pacific security. Score 1 victory objective if Britain possesses both Hong Kong and Malay and has at least one dreadnought in the Pacific. Let's take a look at that. Malay is still in Britain's hands. Hong Kong is still in Britain's hands. And see, this is one that we remember to do. If you remember way back to the war there, we made sure to get a dreadnought over there. Dan had a really good game. He was the British player. He had a great game. Anyway, so that's 1 point for Britain. 2 so far. Africa. Score 1 victory objective if Britain ends the game in possession of at least 2 German colonies. And we have had all of Africa for the longest time. So let's just take a look here. Here's one here. Oh, that's not theirs. Okay, there's one German one. There's one German one. There's one German one. So yeah, they had that. So that's 1 point. So far, 3 for Britain. Next, oil. Score 1 victory objective if Britain has southern Iraq or both Syria. Just a second here. I think I wrote this wrong. Score 1 victory objective if Britain has southern Iraq or both Syria or southern Persia at the end of the game. Okay. I think that should say and, not or. Anyway, so here we are. They have southern Iraq, so that's all they needed. They don't have Syria, and they do have southern Persia, but they needed both of these. But it doesn't matter because they got the point right here. So that's 1 point for Britain. And there's also the victory city of London, so that's 1 point. So that's 5 points for Britain. That's it. Next, we have, okay, so we got Japan next, but Japan and Italy do not have victory points. Only the major powers have victory points. Okay, France, or the French Republic. Total victory. Score 1 victory objective if at the end of the game the Allies possess Bavaria. So that's the territory that is the gateway into Germany. And I can tell you that they do not have it. This is Bavaria there. So if the game had kept going, who knows? I think they probably could have hung on for a couple more turns there, but they do not have that point. So no point for France. France was on their back heels. Tim did a really good job with the Germans as far as keeping the French down. He could have done better in the Pacific or in Africa, but those places are difficult for the Central Powers unless you have the Allies at a disadvantage somewhere else and they have to use their resources in those other places. Then they can't really, load up Africa and the Pacific. That too, of course, will have something to do whether Japan goes Central Powers or Allied, right? Anyway, so the next one is oil. Score 1 victory objective if at the end of the game France possesses Constantinople or Syria or southern Iraq, and they do not have any of them. You can see that in the picture there. Maintain the empire. Score 1 victory objective at the end of the game if France has all starting territories and colonies, and they do. So the one thing that you might want to question is this one here. So France gave up a victory objective to give this territory to Italy for the greasing them for the Italian entry role, right? That one won't count in this case because they they volunteered to give that one up, and that victory point is already subtracted. So that is 1 point for France for having all of their original territories. So France won. Okay. And next, colonial expansion. Score 1 victory objective for each former Ottoman or German land zone France possesses that is not part of their home country. Okay, so they do have only one, and that is right here. This territory, Togoland. They don't have any other ones. Like I said, they were on their back heels the whole game. Tim did a great job fighting the French there. So that's just 1 point for France. So that's 2 so far. Colonial expansion. Oh no, that was the one I just did. Okay, then we got the victory city of Paris, which is 1 point. Now, I just spoke about how they subtract a point. So France had 3 points minus 1. They have a total of 2 now. So that's it for the French Republic. Up next is the German Empire. Okay, buffer and client states. Score 1 victory objective for each of the following Germany possesses or has a line / controls at the end of the game. Belgium, Warsaw, Congress Poland, both Lithuania and Latvia, and Western Ukraine. Okay, so there's a maximum of 5 points there. And this is another reason why we had to wait until the end of the game. Let's go around to the other side of the map there. Okay, a little easier to put my camera down because everybody's dead. Anyway, so they do have Belgium, so that's 1 point. But they don't have any of the other territories, like Western Ukraine, for instance. Where is that? Oh, it's back here ways. So any territories that were on the Eastern Front, and there was a few of them in that list there, they don't have any of them. They were in control of them until recently, but the Soviets managed to take them out, and so they will not get those points. So that's 1 point for Germany. And there we go. Okay, victory. Score 1 victory objective if Germany possesses one of the following land zones at the end of the game. Picardy, that's a no, that's in France. Lorraine, that's a no, or any British home country territory, and that is also a no. So no points on that one. So Middle Africa. Score 1 victory objective if Germany possesses colonies that continuously connect German East Africa with German Cameroon or German South Africa. And as you've seen just a minute ago, they do not have any territories in Africa, so that's no point. So then the next one is global reach. Score 1 victory objective if Germany has a major naval facility in a territory worth at least 1 IPP at the end of the game on the Pacific Ocean or can trace a supply path via rail to southern Persia. So I can tell you right now that they do have a couple of territories in the Pacific, but none of them have what they're looking for. Let me see, where's this guy go? There we go. Okay. So as far as tracing the rail path, the problem is that as soon as they get to Serbia, then it's broken, and also Bulgaria, and so they can't get that one. So that is not a point. Okay. And the territories that they have in the Pacific Ocean, which is only a couple, they're not worth a point. So we couldn't count them as a point. One of them had a major naval facility, but it wasn't worth anything as far as IPP value. So that's why they don't count. And then naval dominance, score 1 victory objective if German has as many dreadnoughts as Britain in the Atlantic Ocean, not including A-12, A-13, or 18 or A-14, or more submarines than Britain has destroyers. And that is a definite no, because they have 4 subs and Britain has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, Uh, 8 destroyers. But yeah, and then Germany doesn't have any other boats. And when they said except for those sea zones, they're talking about in the Baltics here. Like you can't just go hide your navy in there that nobody can get and then say, hey, I got a point. It doesn't work that way. That's just too easy. It's the same reason why Washington's not worth a point. The last one is Berlin, Victory City, 1 point. So Germany is going to get a total of 2 points. Who's next? And Imperial Russia. So Imperial Russia, that is one of the rules that changed for V2, and we've also made it a change for this game because it was actually this game that highlighted the need for that. So Imperial Russia has a total of 4 points that they can get, and they got them all. I'm not going to go over them again, but they were really successful. They got all 4 points. And so those 4 points were put in the bank for the Allies for the end of the game. The change that we made is that we've also decided to give any of the Imperial Russia points to the Soviet Russians as well, because they also earned it, right? The Allies earned it, and so did the Soviets. So both the Allies and the Imperial Russia have 4 points. I don't know if you remember when I showed you my whiteboard there, but I already had them on there. Okay, next one. Italy, no points. Neutrals, no points. Okay, the Ottomans. So, the Ottomans. Let's go take a look here. Now, the very last battle in the game, they lost a point. Thanks to the Soviets. So that's a victory point for both the Soviets and the Ottomans. And the Soviets on the last battle of the game managed to steal it away from the Ottomans. Okay, so score 1 victory objective for possession or control of each of the following. Bulgaria, no. Thessaly, no. Macedonia, no. Southern Persia, no. Northern Persia, yes. No, that's the one they just lost, sorry. Armenia, no. Transcaucasia, no. Eastern Egypt, no. And Cyprus, no. Or any new territory that is both worth 1 IPP or more and in a supply path to Constantinople. And that is also a no. The Ottomans, they only have territories that were part of their original control, and they don't have any other ones. And so if you were watching this game, then one of the lessons that you can take away from this game, and one that Dawson I would have learned as well, is that if you don't have any artillery, you aren't going anywhere. You look on there and the Ottomans don't have any artillery. So you can defend really well. You put lots of dudes on there. You're in the desert and in mountains like they are, man, you can defend all day long. But you're not going to expand at all because the artillery is where the offense comes from. It's pretty hard when they're fighting. They've either got to fight somebody in the sand or in the mountains if they're going to leave their own territory. That's what they're surrounded by, right? Or amphibious assault. And again, that's difficult. So you're going to be rolling at ones for your infantry, or your colonial infantry, and you're just not going to expand at all. I mean, they could have maybe got a point down here because they did have a presence down here for quite a while. They had units here and here, but as the game wore on, the Allies managed to slowly but surely take them back. They were a thorn in the side, but anyway, 0 points for that for the Ottomans. But the victory city of Constantinople, they do own that, and that is worth a point. And like I said, you can't minus that point, and you wouldn't have anyway because they haven't lost any home country territories, right? This territory is not a home country territory, so that is not a minus to them. Anyway, there's that. Who's next? China. So China, I've never seen anybody run the table like this as they did in this game, but China was very successful for the nationalists, and there was a couple reasons for that. There's a deck of cards, and you're going to pull most of the cards throughout the game. It's about the timing. Like This one card in particular is a really good card for the nationalists. If you pull that card really early and the nationalists are still down in their territories here, that card isn't going to be as good. But if you pull it like they were up here already, basically what you do is you align somebody that is adjacent to you, one territory. And so they aligned the one that had the most stuff in it, and that helped them out. But the other thing was, they rolled really, really well. And, that was me that was controlling them, right? I did not roll that well for everybody else that I played, France and the United States, right? But I did roll well for them just about every turn. And just about every turn they were successful in taking something, right? And so that was actually over a turn or two before it needed to be. And so the other thing is that, I played this scenario here dozens of times as I was developing it. And so, I'll just over and over and over and over and over again, trying to balance it, trying to tweak it and everything. And so I really knew how to do it, right? It'll take people a while to figure that out, or they can just watch me and do what I did, I guess. Anyway, so that's worth 2 points because they had the 14 territories. Like if one side owns 9 territories, then they get a point. If they own 14 territories, then they get 2 points. And I believe there's 18 territories that the nationalists own here. And so that's 2 points. And then the other thing is the victory city of Peking here, that's where the point. So 3 points in total from China. And those are considered bonus points. So if anybody gets points in there, they're considered bonus points. So who do we got left? The Soviets and the Americans. Let's do the Americans first. We'll do the Soviets last. I wanna show you how close he got. Okay. The Americans are quick anyway. They've only got 4 points available to them. They're not much of a part of the game for most of the game. So it'd be kind of disingenuous to give them, 10 points that they could get, right? Like, yay, I had Chicago. That's worth 3 points, Yeah, that wouldn't be fair. Anyway, 4 points. Neutrality. Score 1 victory objective if the U.S. loses less than 10 land units and less than 2 capital ships in the game, or the war ends with the alliance total victory points less than or equal to 3 points different. And we're talking about between the Allies and the Central Powers here. Add this victory objective after the others have been scored. Now, if it was close, then I'd say, hey, we better check that out, but it's not even close between those two sides, right? And the Americans did lose more than 10 land units. Tim beat the crap out of them in one particular attack with the Germans, and I think they lost 10 units right there. So they do not get that one. Now, Monroe Doctrine, score 1 victory objective if at the end of the game no Central Powers or Soviets possess a land zone in North, Central, or South America. And that is worth a point. So let's take a look over here. Nobody up in North and Central America. The Germans never did align Mexico. That might be the first time I've ever played a game where Mexico didn't join one side or the other. There's that. I was looking for this guy. So I put that dreadnought down over on the other side because I couldn't find the dreadnought in the Pacific, and there it was. Anyway, so the one thing that almost screwed me here was here. He had this at stage 3, and if he would have rolled it, and then the game ended because we were playing variable ending, then that would have taken away that point, that Monroe Doctrine. And that's why I had a Marine and 2 artillery left over here. I didn't bother moving those, putting them on a transport and taking them to Europe because I was worried about this one. But I didn't need to because when he got it to 3, then, like everybody went and the Americans went at the end of the turn, they rolled for that territory and they were successful as well. So that moved it back to 2. And so I didn't have to attack him. Like I was just going to pay the extra $5 and attack him just so that he couldn't do that on the following turn. Like get a lucky 3 and align him. So I was just going to take him out, but I didn't need to because I was able to bring him back. So that is worth 1 point for the Monroe Doctrine. USA 1. Okay. Next. Pacific Security. Score 1 victory objective if the U.S. has more dreadnoughts than Japan, possesses all Pacific islands it began the game with, and China possesses 9 IPP in Chinese territory value. That is worth a point. And as I showed you, the nationalists have all of the money, all of the territories, so they do have that 9. Japan, we made sure, like we started building dreadnoughts for them, and we stopped because we thought, oh geez, you know, the more dreadnoughts we build, the more we're going to have to build American dreadnoughts. So we had a dreadnought on the build queue, but then we stopped building it just so the Americans, you know, they could get that point with just 1 dreadnought. Anyway, I think they have 5 or 6 dreadnoughts on the board, so that's going to be a point for the Americans. So America's up to 2. And what's next? Global dominance. Score 1 victory objective at the end of the game. The USA is at war. They are. With the Central Powers, and has 18 or more land units in Europe and more dreadnoughts than Great Britain. So again, we had to manage ourselves, make sure that the British did not build more dreadnoughts than the Americans, and they did not. So the Americans have 3, 4, and there's 1 in the Pacific, that's 5. The British have 3 dreadnoughts. Yeah, 3 dreadnoughts on that task marker up there. So the Americans have more dreadnoughts. Now, they have to have 18 land units in Europe, and on the very last turn of the game, the Americans had just enough units to bring over here. If you count up all of their land units, the boat or the planes don't count, all of the land units total exactly 18. So, by the skin of their teeth, they got that point. That is 3 points for the Americans. And now, drum roll, please. Oh, yeah, I was just looking at something there. Okay. So the Soviets. Now remember, they've already got 4 victory points from the Imperial Russians. So, thank you, Mr. Romanov. Yeah, there we go. All right, let's start from the beginning here. The proletariat. Score 1 victory objective for each of the following the Soviets possess at the end of the game. Petrograd, yes. Transcaucasia, yes. Smolensk, yes. Terezin, Primorsky Krai, Archangels. They have all of those, but they cannot score more than 3 for that. Okay, so that's 3. Okay. Go West. Soviets possess all 3 territories at the end of the game, and they do. So it's, if you look real close, this, and this territories are lighter color than this. This is Poland, and this is Ukraine over here. These lighter color territories. So there's 6 Ukrainian territories, 3 Polish territories, and they do. They possess all 3 of those. That's 1 point for the Soviets. Alrighty. And retain Finland. Soviets possess all 3 Finnish territories at the end of the game, and the next one, or that's worth 2 points. And the next one is the Ukraine. Soviets possess all 6 Ukrainian territories at the end of the game, and that's 2 points. You know what? I didn't realize that Polish one is worth 2 points. So 2 points for them. Okay. I had to adjust that, so they're at 5. Now, Finland is right here. This territory, this territory, this territory, and yes, those are Russians. I'm purchasing more of the Soviet markers to put on. This is actually the imperial standard of the Russians. But when I went to buy some, they were out of stock because, of course, the game just came out and people are buying them. And anyway, so I've got some ordered. But anyway, that's worth 2 points. So 2 more for the Soviets. Now, okay, Ukraine. Soviets possess all 6 Ukrainian territories at the end of the game. Now, this was so close, I can't even believe it. I was watching it this morning when I got up, watching Randall's video, and he almost did it. where are we here? So Crimea. Crimea is part of the Ukraine. He thought he'd done it in the turn before because he thought that they were French guys and the French withdrew like all the other major powers did at one time or another during the Civil War. And the French withdrew, and then he thought, great, and he just stepped in there, right? But no, bud, those aren't French, those are white army. You can't lend lease to yourself, right? So the French started there with, like you place an infantry and an artillery there, and so they did that. And then so they did, when they attacked them, they only got one hit. And so that removed the French infantry that was left. The artillery had already died in a previous battle. So that left six white infantry. When he went in there, I thought he had no chance whatsoever. But he came really close, like he got him down to 2. It was the second round of attack where he got no hits at all. Like the first round, he just killed it, right? And like he took 3 off in the first round and 0 off in the second round, and then he only had 2 trains left in the third round. And with there was 3 whites left, there was no way he could do it. He rolled anyway. He caught 1, and then they killed the 2 trains. So he does not get the Ukraine 2 points because of that. But man, that was close. Connect the Soviet republics. Score 1 victory objective for owning 1 unbroken rail link linking Primorsky Krai and Moscow, and that's worth a point. So there is Moscow right there, and there is a rail line that goes across. We just got to make sure that there's no whites or anybody else in the way, and there's not. Here's Primorsky Krai over here, so that is 1 point. Okay, point for the Soviets. Communist International. So this was another one on the very last turn. Score 1 victory objective for any neutral minor power that is Soviet aligned. So like you get a free roll. Like you lose all of your stuff that's on the diplomacy chart at, when Russia collapses, right? So any roundels that you had come off. From the Soviet track over here. I don't even know if they had any, but anyway, they would have come off. Let me try to get that out of there. So then you get a free roll every turn. You don't get to purchase any, but you get a free one. And I think he had 7 turns to do it, and he managed to get 1, 2, 3 with Sweden, and he couldn't get that 4th. I think he had the other 3 pretty early, and then at least 2, but maybe even 3 rolls in a row. He couldn't get it, and that was too bad. And you'll see why later, but that was worth a point that he did not get. And then the last point is score 1 victory objective for owning North Persia, 1 point. And that's the one I kind of mentioned earlier, where that was also a point for the Ottomans, and that's this territory here. He did a really good attack here. The one thing that he could have done differently, he was speculating in his video, was take these 2 trains here and go at Crimea instead. And so that might have worked, and he might have got Crimea, and because you look at he just slaughtered him here. But that's not a guarantee that he would have taken Persia then without those trains, because it was in his first strike in the first round that he got 3 hits. And I think that's because he had 2 artillery and 2 trains, right? So you take those 2 trains out of there and you only get 1 hit, then maybe he's not successful in that attack, right? Because he didn't take him out till the 3rd round, and I think he only had 1 extra hit. So it's kind of dicey whether or not moving those trains would have made a difference. I mean, if you had a choice now, you say, okay, I'm going to redo it, because you weren't successful. But, like you got to make a choice, right? He made his choice, and it didn't quite work out, so he did not get that point. So, Victory City, Moscow, 1 point. This point is scored even if Germany scored the Petrograd Victory City point. Okay, so, right here. The Soviets possessed Moscow. You can see by the marker here that this is a victory city. Now, when the game starts, the victory city, the capital of Russia, was Petrograd, but when it collapsed, then the Victory City moved here. Now this could actually be given out twice. So if the Germans took out Petrograd, then they get that Victory City point. But then when you start the Civil War, the Soviets or whoever could also get Moscow. So that is one that could have been scored twice, that Victory City, but it wasn't. It was only scored the once. So that's one for the Soviets. And there we go. Alrighty. Let's just bring this back here. I don't know if I can hold that up and write at the same time. So that's 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 17, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 17. Okay, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 13. Okay. I wonder if maybe I've given out one too many points, because it seems to me that they only had 16. Anyway, let's take a look here. It's not, okay, so these guys I have at 4 points. They had more, but then the Soviets took them away. Now, the other guys can dispute this. I haven't talked to them about it, but they know the game really well too, and if they disagree, then I'll let you know, right? But this is what I've got, and you see me count it up. So 4 points. The Allies have 17 points, and there's a point that you could get, like bonus point, that both France and Britain and Germany as well could get a bonus point if the Soviets were under or no more than 5 points. But as you can see, they had 13 points. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 13. So they're not going to score those bonus points. So there we go, 17 to 13 to 4. And that was a good game. It was a really good game. And it was interesting. That's what I like. No game that I've ever played has ever looked like another game. There could be some similarities, but each one has its own character and flavor, and this game was no different. The big thing that happened in this game and why the score was so lopsided was that the three of us, Randall and Dan and I, came up with a really good plan in the prequel. The plan was kill Bob. And how we did that was, Bob was the Austro-Hungarian. How we did that was we lend-leased as much as we could into Serbia. So then when the war started, Serbia moved into Austria-Hungary, and Austria-Hungary is not very strong at the start of the game. So once the Russians did that, there was nothing that the Austro-Hungarians could do to get them out of there. Like if Germany would have moved 20 guys down there to take care of them, well then France moves into and Britain move into Germany, right? So it was actually a pretty good strategy that we came up with, and it really was the game, right? It would have been over a while ago. Like the game probably would have ended before the end of the war. Like we probably would have seen a surrender if I hadn't unluckily rolled the Russian Revolution when I did. Like you roll in the spring of 1917 and every turn afterwards, and you had to get a 1, and there was no modifiers because the Russians were kicking ass, right? And so I stepped up to the plate and rolled a 1. But if it wasn't for that, like we were just getting ready to, just about ready to take out the Germans. And I don't know if we would have been successful or not, but we did have a chance to do that. Like the British and the French were going to, the Germans owned Lorraine here. They were going to just concentrate their fire, and they were going to keep doing it. But then the Soviets crapped out, and the Soviets were doing really well. They had all of their own territories here. They had lots of units over here. They had lots of artillery and everything, and so it's not like the Germans could have abandoned it. And then, of course, I explained how badly the Austro-Hungarians were faring there. So We could have done that. We could have came at them and just kept attacking. And of course, if we'd have got diced, then it wouldn't have worked, right? But short of that, though, like that's what we were going to do, and we were going to weaken him and try to get him out of there. And if that had happened, then there really wouldn't have been much point in going on anymore for the Central Powers, because they were already losing the game quite badly. And then to lose the only advantage that they had, like the only thing that they could have done was take Paris. And I did talk to Tim on the phone with just a few turns left. I said, why aren't you attacking Paris? And he said, well, the numbers aren't there. And he's right, the numbers weren't there. Like, I had the advantage. But, you know, when you're losing the game, there's nothing else you can do, right? Like, you either attack or you just concede the game. Like, not concede as in, okay, let's stop the game, but concede as in, well, I guess we're not going to do it, and just, you know, continue it out and wait for the next game, right? Like, you might as well take the shot. And I don't know why he didn't. You know, like, you could have said that it was a smart thing to do, and you wouldn't be wrong, as far as, you know, the battle itself, right? Because again, like, he needed to dice me, and I needed to roll really bad, right? And that just didn't happen. Like, he just didn't even try. So that was one thing. He did instead. Afterwards, he decided to rebuild the German Navy, and I was really shocked at how quickly he did. He actually rebuilt it twice, because he lost the entire German Navy against the British Navy, and then he rebuilt it, and then he lost it, and then he rebuilt it, and then he just lost it. He only had subs left. I thought he could have done more with submarines in the game, but he didn't try that. And, you know, like, it's easy to say that, but if he'd built a bunch of submarines earlier in the game, then maybe he doesn't have France on the back foot anymore, right? Like, he really did well on the land in Europe. He didn't do well in Africa, and he didn't fare too well in the oceans, but he did really well in Germany. And, you know, like, despite the fact that that they had, the score was lopsided, Germany has all their own territory, and they don't even look like they're close to being losing anything, because, you know, this side doesn't matter, right? The Eastern Front doesn't matter. The Russians weren't allowed to attack them. They had a peace agreement, and so they moved out of there. And then once the revolution starts, it's contained within Russia, and so they didn't need any troops over there, right? Anyway, so that made the game pretty lopsided. Now, in Russia, so the one advantage for the Russian was that ending the game so early, or ending the war really early for the Russians, and having them so strong at the time, meant that they had as big of an advantage for winning the Civil War as I've ever seen, and same with Bob. And man, did he come close to winning this game. If he would have taken Crimea, that's another 2 points. And then if he'd have got Sweden there, that would have been another point. And that's 16. It feels like I counted wrong, because I thought that they had another point. You know what? I'm going to stop the video right now, and I'll come back. I want to just check the points, okay? Okay, so I just added them up again, and there was one change, and that's just the Soviet somehow missed 1 point. But anyway, so they have 14 points. And then they missed 3 points, right? Like, that's 2 points for the Ukraine if they'd take that guy out, and then the 1 point for Sweden if they'd managed to get that. So that would have tied the game, and that would have been pretty cool for the Russians to do that. It's not easy for the Russians to win this game when it's a blowout like this. What you kind of need to do is to get a few points from the Imperial Russians, and then have it close between the other two, the Central Powers and the Allies. Like, the Allies just got too many points. Like, if China had turned out differently, right? Even just China. So, like, let's say the Allies only got 1 point in China, and the other guys got 1 point or 2 even, right? Then there's 2 less points, right? And then you get the Imperial Russia, or sorry, then you get the other 3 Soviet Russia points, and there's a victory. So the path to victory was there, but it just needed to be a little bit closer at the end of the war, and it just wasn't right. But anyway, he did awesome though. Like you look at what he's got here. So there's only 4 white units here, plus the 2 in Crimea, and that's it. That's all he had left. But you know what? He had some really bad luck in his rolling. If he could have done better with his rolling, then again, like that would have been the points that he needed right there, right, in the Ukraine. And then of course that one with Sweden is a bit of luck, right? Like you have to be kind of lucky in order to get that point. But anyway, had a great time. So what's next? Well, what's next is a version 2 of the game, and we're going to start here really quick, like maybe even as soon as this weekend. We're going to start. So there's 4 of us going to be playing that are part of this game. Dan and Dawson have got something else going on and they can't participate, which is too bad because they're great guys and had a lot of fun interacting with them. And you know, like a lot of the fun is not just what you see on the board, but it's what happens in behind the scenes. Like usually with these games, you're playing over WhatsApp, right? So you know, like you're asking what order casualties you want, and you're settling disagreements and things like that, right? Joking around with each other. So that's a lot of fun. Anyway, I had a lot of fun with those guys, and always enjoy playing a game with my friend Bob. Him and I had a really good time, and his neighbor Tim. I got to know Tim a bit better. I'd known him before and I talked to him, but you know, it wasn't until this game where we got to know each other better. I got to know my partner pretty good, Dan, and my other partner for part of the game, Randall. We actually talked on the phone a couple times with Randall. I think we had a 3-way conversation at one time over WhatsApp. Like you can actually call the other side of the world for free on WhatsApp, right? And Dan and I, like I've got international calling with Canada, the United States, so Dan and I talked every round at least once, right? We would talk and decide what to do and everything, and so you know, like sometimes we talk for an hour or two, you know, just bullshitting about whatever, right? Not just this game, but anything, life, the universe, or anything, you know. And so it's a lot of fun. Anyway, we've got the 4 players that we want to play, and I did put out a call a couple days ago on Discord, but nobody's answered as of yet. And I did ask a couple of people directly, people that have helped out with, they were really helpful with their questions and clarifications and stuff like that. Like it was obvious that they really enjoyed the game and were really interested. But they are busy as well. But if you want to get in on this upcoming game, if you own the game, of course, you're going to need a copy of the game, then we would love to have you. So just let me know in the comment section of this video if you'd like to play. Even if you've never played a YouTube game before, I'm sure you've watched a few of them. Like you know how it goes, right? And if you have a cell phone, then you can get on WhatsApp and you can be a part of it. And so it's a good way to get better at this game, for one thing, because you're playing with the 2 guys that were the designers of the game in the end, plus one of the longtime playtesters, Tim, plus Randall, who he was a lot of fun to play with. He thinks he made a lot of mistakes, but he didn't make as many as he thought he did. Like no more than the rest of us would have. I've made the same mistakes that he made in this game. But he felt like he was making more, and he really wasn't. He actually made some good moves and everything, and he did very well. Obviously, like he almost won this game against 3 very experienced players plus Dan, who had a great game. Anyway, so if you want to be a part of that, let me know, and we're going to play the prequel, and we're going to play the core game, and then we'll be playing the Civil War again, the Russian Civil War, if they go to Revolution, right? Like they might not go to Revolution until after the war ends, and you know, so you wouldn't play that. But that's what we're going to do. And if you own the game and you want to play, even like I said, even if you don't, even if you've never played a YouTube game, as long as you have a phone and you know how to speak English, because that would be helpful. It's not that I don't like people who don't speak English. I like everybody. It's just it's hard to communicate on YouTube with each other if we can't understand you. So that would be handy. And just let me know. So anyway, but thanks for joining us for this game. Oh, and by the way, we are playing with the new rules, and there are some rule changes. If you don't know what they are, go back a video or two ago in my catalog there, and you'll find out what those rule changes are. The major ones anyway, like there's a couple of tweaks here and there. And we will also be playing with version 2.0 of the random events. Now we haven't published those yet, but we're going to play with them. And so it's either going to be me or Bob that plays the Americans. So we will be running the random events at the end of the turn. And in that way, we already have them on our computers, right? I don't really want to share them until Doug is ready to publish them. But yeah, like we're going to be playing with those, and they are better. They're much improved. A lot of the stuff that you found in the errata there was because of the random events. A lot of them could have been worded differently, and so those have all been worded very well. We've been over them and over them and over them. Plus, we changed them. There's a lot of them that are changed in there. We wanted to get some more fighters into this game, so a lot of them have to do with fighters. There's a lot more historical ones. There was a lot of repeats before, right? So there's no repeats anymore. There's some that are progressions, like for instance the Spanish flu. So you know, like it starts off and then it gets worse and then it gets worse. So they're not all exactly the same. And there's a few others about that. You know, stuff in Africa 1 and stuff in Africa 2. You know what I mean? So you might pull one, you might pull both of them, but they're not exactly the same. They're just similar. Anyway, so we're going to be doing that. So if you want to get involved, then we would love to have you. And thank you for joining us. This video will go, as soon as I'm done uploading it, it will go into the playlist. And so all of the videos from this game will be in the playlist by the time this video comes out. And thanks again for joining us. And thank you more than anything to my teammates and my opponents in this game. I had a lot of fun playing with you guys. As always, I learn a lot every time I play the game. So thank you for that. And take care, everyone. General Hand Grenade out.